Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to Monday night on RCI TV for round 4 of the Challenge Cup. We go from the night skies of the Hungaroring to sunny Imola for the 4th round of the season. We're on Ferrari and Lamborghini's home turf for round 4, and will it be a change of fortunes for Ferrari and Lamborghini in this championship? Good evening, my name is Ryan Gill. I'm your lead commentator for this evening. I have alongside me for the duration of today's race, it is John Dalton, and behind the cameras, Ryan Mawson. John, we're here in Italy. We're at Ferrari and Lamborghini's home turf circuit, Ferrari's home circuit particularly. Is this the race when Joe McCauley can finally stretch the legs of the Ferrari 488 Challenge Evo?
I mean, he's looking pretty good in free practice here. 2.5 minutes of the session to go. He's been putting in some serious lap times and some serious laps in general, just to try and clamber his way up the top of the timing board. But P6, he's at least made it to the top 10 tonight. So, this could be the one. A few names that I'm looking up and down, not expecting to see kind of that far down. There's a few that I'm not expecting to see that high up. Strong lap there from Nico Kampu by the looks of it. Say one of the contenders in Hungaroring that sat in the midfield. So tables have turned. Lamborghini certainly looking a little bit more dominant than the Porsche. Not seeing so many of the German manufacturer in the top end of the field. So this could be the one where we see maybe a change of who's at the front, Ryan.
Well, hopefully so. It was Lamborghini that definitely put out the best performance in pre-qualifying here at Imola before the start of the season. The top 3 cars were all Lamborghinis, although it has to be said that I think it was the top 5 in pre-Q, all within 1/10 of a second. So it was very, very close, but if there is any circuit at the moment that we've come across where Lamborghini can really, really take it to the Porsche Cup car, it's going to be here. And of course the Ferrari finally able to find some long straights where it can maximize that speed. They will have Monza coming up later in the year as well, in a couple of weeks' time to finish out the season. So we should see another opportunity, at least for the Ferrari, to really get its legs stretched. But we'll focus on what is going on this evening. We have championship standings coming up after qualifying, but right now, as we get towards the end of practice, it is a Porsche out on top. Benjamin Heilmann, the championship leader, 143.0 at the moment. But like you were saying, John, he's got 2 Lamborghinis right in behind him. Then there's another 2 Porsches. But once you get past those, you have to go all the way down to 12th place to find the next Cup car. And it is, as you say, mostly the Raging Bull in the top 10 in practice.
Yeah, certainly so, Ryan. Lamborghini's looking super quick here, like you say. The next driver, and we're watching on our screens now, down in P12 is Polyakov, the man that did lead quite the majority of the Hungaroring last week out. But hopefully he's cool, calm and collected tonight. Want to see some serious pace out of this guy. And we know he's got it inside him. But if the Porsche is struggling here, the Lamborghini looking like the stronger car, maybe the tables have turned. It would be nice to see. Track temperature looking quite warm today, 27 air and 32 C on track, so you're going to have to manage those tyres quite well, as opposed to last week in the cooler temperatures where we were able to drive the tyre a little bit more aggressively for a little bit longer. You're going to have to watch your oversteer and understeer here, especially in the Cup car that of course has no traction control, only ABS.
Yeah, no traction control in the Porsche Cup car to assist it, and that will obviously aid in its difficulty throughout the course of this season. They've already had 3 races to deal with that, but coming here to Imola, maybe it will present a bit of a different challenge. The slow corners always seem to be the most difficult corners to deal with when you lack that traction control, particularly if you have to go down into first gear. I remember in the old Cup car that some drivers even avoided first gear entirely because of the fact that second gear just gave them a bit more leniency with how that traction control would work, and maybe a couple of drivers employing that tactic with the new Cup car as well. But I have heard that the new Cup car a lot more lenient when it comes to the traction control and how much grip it has coming out of the corners. Watching Vigascu here just come up towards the end of the timing line. He's the last driver out on track, and we will get moving towards the qualifying session, crosses the line, and here we are. So we're into qualifying, and it will be time for the 28 cars that we have out here this evening to take to the circuit. And, well, with 15 minutes of qualifying between the three classes that we have out here, I think a lot of the eyes are going to be on Joe McCauley to see exactly what he can do. But the first car out on track, it is our championship leader, taking this as serious as ever, Benjamin Harmon. He's had some fantastic results so far, John Dalton, in this race. A win and, is that 2 podiums? It is. It's 2 podiums so far this season. A win to his name, all in the top 5 for his finishing positions. Of course, one of those has been discounted because of the drop round. But Benjamin Harmon, at the moment, doing exactly what he needs to do to be right up there at the end of the season.
Yeah, we've seen some great pace, Ryan, out of Benjamin Harmon this whole season. Really gelled quite well with the Porsche Cup car. Drove with him before this did start in the 9 Hours of Alton Park that RCI also hosted just after these cars became public to drive. And yeah, he had some serious pace in there. So he's definitely been putting in the hours in the new generation of the Porsche Cup car. So it kind of explains why he is probably the best of the best that we have seen out. Struggled a little bit last time at Hungaroring. Did see Caracas taking a very good pace to him along with Polyakov. Harmon struggled off the start, so hopefully he's looking to really nail that start today, really get that Porsche kind of drilled in and ahead of everyone else. As we see there, one of the Lamborghinis getting a little bit cheeky. Andy Boardman, I believe, there, trying to kind of overtake, make a little bit of a rolling roadblock. Everybody's going to be really backed up. Apparently we have a server restart possibly coming in shortly. Not sure why on that one, but it is coming in, so maybe why these guys aren't taking the opening lap as seriously as they will. But hopefully we can get that restarted and jump back into the qualifying. Hopefully we will see Benjamin Harmon take a pole. I believe the restart is imminent. Everybody heading kind of back to the pits, backing off and getting ready for it, Ryan. You were here not so many weeks ago with the Real Life GT3 series, I believe. How was that?
I definitely was, and it was absolutely fantastic. This circuit lives up to the name and the history that it has, as we're just waiting for this imminent server restart. And yeah, I was here, and it is fantastic. The whole place kind of feels a bit like a coliseum, in a way. Not to sound, very all Italian and all that, with it, being the Romans and all sorts, but it does feel like a coliseum. The circuit very dipped down, and everywhere you go, you're pretty much looking down into the circuit, even from the just general admission viewing points. It's absolutely fantastic, and I got to see one of the classes that is out here today. I got to see the new Lamborghini Super Trofeo Evo 2 with my own eyes out here at Imola, and they sound absolutely fantastic. They look absolutely fantastic. Even got to see a few of them coming back through the paddock after they'd done their practice or qualifying or race sessions. So it was incredible. But this circuit, it's absolutely fantastic. The racing is always great here, and it's definitely a circuit that I'd put it pretty high on the list of destinations to check out if you come to Italy at any point on a holiday, or if you're planning on coming to maybe a future Formula One Grand Prix, because of course they hosted the Formula One here on the weekend, and then of course they'll be hosting it in the next few years as well. I believe they've got a multi-year contract now, and I think GT World Challenge Europe with an endurance race will probably be back here within the next couple of years again.
Yeah, certainly does provide some really great racing. I remember watching the GT World Challenge when that was here. Certainly wheel-to-wheel racing absolutely everywhere, and drivers putting on an absolutely stellar show that weekend. And like you say, Ryan, Formula One with the weekend just gone. I didn't watch it personally, but again, I heard there was some quite great battles going on up and down the field. As we see here, Ryan with the drone cam having a little bit of a play about before we skip through to qualifying. So Benjamin with the #1 pit spot, so he's probably again going to want to click drive as fast as he can, jump out ahead of the queue and try and get some track position. Imola, typically one of those really congested tracks that can get quite tight in places if you do encounter traffic, so very similar to the Hungaroring many corners only really have one fast line through them. It's not always possible to go side by side, overtake or dive your rivals going into them. But again, it does provide with some great racing. Looking forward to seeing Joe McCauley as well in our Ferrari try and fire that up the grid order. Not seen Wolf Matushka tonight. Not sure if he's coming in the pink Ferrari as well, but would be great to see two of them out battling at this classic circuit.
Yeah, I'm just wondering, as Ryan Mawson gives us a little bit of a drone cam experience here of the pit lane. You can see one of the cars coming down pit road at the moment towards us. I believe this is one of the Porsche Cup cars. Yes, it is.
I believe Caracas maybe, or is it Schumann?
Yeah, you can actually see. Having been here, I can actually attest to the fact that Imola is modelled incredibly well. You can see the balcony just above the pit stalls. I was actually there for the start of the race, and I can verify that Kunos have they have everything down to a T. Even the colours of those steps and everything that you have, you know, just in a bit more of a vibrant colour so that people can see them. And everything is immaculately recreated here. Absolutely. I think the one thing we didn't have was that giant digital board over on the other side where you can actually see the advertisements for ACC at the moment. I think that was the only thing that isn't there when I was there. But apart from everything else, immaculately recreated. And it is fantastic to stand up here and watch the cars just go past. Similar experience to what you get in the grandstands, except the only added benefit is you get to see and hear all of the noises down in the garages below, which is always an absolute treat to just stand over and watch all the teams get to work.
Yeah, super accurate modelling as always by Kunos. They really do take the attention to detail to the next level in all of their creations, whether it's the track scenery, the cars, the interiors, you know, the cockpits, even the driver models are stupendously well done, such as the Rossi suit shoehorned into the game. You obviously pick the Valentino Rossi R8 Evo, you do get to see his matching helmet and suit. So yeah, keen eye to detail for Kunos. Personally, I can't comment on the Imola accuracy, not yet been, but maybe in the future, who knows. But yeah, great little circuit, great little attention to detail as we just wait out the last 50 seconds of practice here before we skip over to the qualifying and we can get the show on the road run.
Yeah, qualifying, preparing to get back underway. A lot of the drivers just going and doing an out lap just to get themselves back again familiar with the car. Of course, they were ready to go into qualifying before we had to do a little bit of a restart, so some people just resetting themselves. Then a few other drivers like Benjamin Harmon just sitting in pit lane at the moment, just preparing himself mentally, and feels like he doesn't need to go out there and do a couple of just test laps to make sure that he's all dialed in. He knows exactly where he needs to be. And Joe McCauley, identical as well, just sat there in pit lane. He's going to be raring to go, surely, John, especially around a track like this.
Yeah, certainly excited to see what Joe McCauley can do in that Ferrari. Looking at the deltas in the free practice, we saw the Ferrari absolutely blisteringly quick in sectors 1 and 3, and then pretty much all the time loss was in sector 2, around the kind of twistier part of the circuit with a lot less straight. So we're probably going to end up seeing a very similar vibe to what we saw at Spa, where we had the Lamborghinis super quick on, you know, the straight up the Camel, Eau Rouge, Raidillon, down to Blanchimont and the bus stop, and then as soon as you jump in the Porsche and drop it into that sector 2, from the top of the Camel all the way down the twisties, we saw the Porsche gaining a lot until again the straight kicked in at sector 3 and off the Lamborghini went. So feeling a little bit of cat and mouse maybe tonight for Joe McCauley. See if he gets kind of frustrated constantly watching the back of a wing of a Porsche or a Lamborghini through the twisties of sector 2. As we watch here, Benjamin Schumann in the very brightly coloured 912 Cup car, yellow with purple ends. We're going to have to be careful because I believe Caracas also is in a yellow Cup car, so have to make sure we don't cast that one wrong as we flick over to qualifying now. Cars getting fired up and ready to go out of the pit lane.
And Benjamin Harmon quick off the marks again to make sure that he's the first one out on track. He doesn't want anyone ahead of him, John, when he comes out for qualifying. He wants the whole front of that track to himself.
Yeah, certainly so. Doesn't want anybody in front of him at all. Wants all the space to get the best run that he can. So, leader of the pack at the moment is Harmon. He's going to be almost like the Pied Piper, dragging every single car around with him, trying to probably create a little bit of a gap for himself, trying to drive fast enough to get some heat into those tyres, but not fast enough that he is going to ruin them. Although we have just noticed the track is currently green for the start of this session, so it's going to be very interesting to see these guys that are kind of used to running this circuit in optimal conditions, and seeing how that affects them. Will it put some of them off? Will we see maybe a few different people towards the top? I know in kind of mixed green fast conditions, I'm not too far off the pace, but as soon as it goes optimum, just can't extract that extra bit needed from the car to get close to the front guys. So might see a bit of a curveball here. We'll see how quick the track rubbers in. I believe we have 30 drivers tonight, a lot more than last week, probably attributed to the fact that this week isn't a bank holiday ride, so everybody should be nice and sober in tonight's race.
Yeah, definitely. We'll hope that the driving is a bit cleaner as well. The stewards did have a couple of words to say after the Hungaroring race, especially when it didn't look too bad at the start, and then it progressively got a bit more scrappy, should we say, as the race went on. But hopefully here at Imola, the circuit's a bit bigger, and we do have a few more drivers here, but everyone should be fresh and back up to speed. So here we go then. Benjamin Harmon will take us on the very first qualifying lap around here at Imola in the Porsche Cup car here. We'll cross the line through turn 1 and make our way all the way down towards the first chicane here. You want to look on the right hand side of the track, find your braking point and get the car turned in nice and early. Ride as much of the anti-cut curves as you'll dare. Benjamin Harmon being very, very conservative on those anti-cut curves, now powering down towards the second chicane. And now here you want to sacrifice your entry on the first one so that you can slingshot the car out of the second set of corner. Mind the car that's on the left-hand side of the circuit and go into the Tosa hairpin. Get nice and tight and wide on your exit so that you can power up through the straight now, heading up towards Piratella. And need to get the car turned in nice and sharp here and avoid the track limits on the exit side of the circuit. On the right, you want to run as wide as you want, but just do not run over those track limit sensors. Then down into Aqua Minerale, such a tricky track and corner in the dry, never mind when you come here in the wet like Formula 1 was on the weekend, and then power up towards the Variante Alta chicane, the last chicane, before you prepare yourself for the Ravazza corners. And Benjamin Harmon may be just going a bit deep on the first part of the chicane, comes out, goes very, very wide, but I think his lap time is still valid. It's still valid to me as he makes his way down towards Ravazza now, late into the braking zone, the car working against you as gravity does, and then into the final corner. Get the car power down on the exit quickly and up towards the start-finish line. And what will be the very first lap for Benjamin Harmon for the entire session? What is the benchmark to beat? The banker lap for Benjamin Harmon, it is a 1:43.8, and it's immediately beaten by Kumpu. Nyring's about 0.8 of a second off. Oh no, sorry, that's not Nyring. Lindgren's 0.8 of a second off. Nyring about 3.5. But it is Nico Kumpu who, out of the first set of drivers, has gone quickest with 1:43.6.
Yeah, Nico there following Heilmann, possibly inching ever closer as the lap went on there. Possibly got a little bit of a slipstream between a couple of corners, maybe on that one. But yeah, certainly a great banker lap from Nico Kumpu, seeing if he can maybe match it for a second time. He might want to give himself a little bit of space to that Porsche though, through sector 2. Obviously twisties with the aero balance does not mix and could end up obviously offsetting the car slightly, as Caracas jumps to the top of the board at the moment with a 1:43.5. So new benchmark set by a very strong driver from last weekend at the Hungaroring. As we watch here, Tom Bryant coming around the last set of corners into 17 and 18 of Ravazza, coming up towards the line. Where does Tom Bryant place himself for the Connection Lost Racing team in the number 42 Lamborghini? He places himself in P17, so a good lap there from Tom Bryant. Say one of our kind of more consistent drivers, I would say, at RCI. As the man, me and Ryan are both going to be watching very closely this race is Joe McCauley as he comes up here towards the start-finish straight. Very fast section for the Ferrari there. Jumps himself up into P3 already on the first lap with a 1:43.8. Matches and beats Heilmann's time in that Porsche. So certainly going to be a very interesting one there. As speaking of Heilmann beating his time, he goes a 1:43.7. Not much quicker, not really that close to Caracas. Still another 0.2 to find on that lap. Ryan, who's your money on for pole here today?
Oh, it's going to be very, very hard to say. And as we continue to talk, the lap times just keep coming in. Ostrich in the 444 just threw themselves up into second place, but that was then immediately beaten by Boardman, who is now just over a 1/10 of a second away from Caracas's provisional pole. And now Caracas's provisional pole has been beaten out by Ole Pitchik, who's just gone almost a 1/10 quicker. It's a 1:43.4. And then Caracas goes quicker again in the 1:19. Now it's 35 thousandths of a second between the two drivers on the front row of the grid. And it's 4 Lamborghinis in the top 5 to start us off in qualifying.
Certainly these Lamborghinis looking very, very feisty here. Really got the hammer down. Maybe sandbanging a little bit in free practice, not showing their best potentials, but here in qualifying they have really, really opened up the throttle and really got that lap times in to see, you know, more Raging Bulls in the top than the Porsche emblem. As we ride on board here where Joe McCauley currently resides in P8. Can he get another lap in that is quicker than his previous, coming up towards the line here? He does. He fires the Ferrari up into P2 with a 1:43.4. So Joe McCauley definitely a man to watch this race, Ryan. Looking very, very racy, matching the time of Pitchik and Caracas as the Heilmann fires himself up very quick indeed, 1:43.3, along with Nico Kumpu nearly running at 1:43 flat. So we could be tickling into the 1:42s here, Ryan.
We definitely could, and it's kind of annoying. We can't go back and check the practice times because we had to do the restart. But I think we were pretty close to that 42 mark in practice, and well, maybe we'll see that beaten out here today. But Nico Kumpu at the moment, we're getting a race replay here of Victor Nordquist. So what exactly happened to the Lamborghini? Oh. And off into the wall. That's not going to be good, and don't have too much time left of qualifying, just about 7 minutes, so going to have to get a move on at the moment. But yeah, Nico Kumpu, 1:43.02, well, basically a quarter of a second, almost 3/10 even, over Benjamin Heilmann in second right now. The Lamborghini really, really showing that this is a track where it can take it to the Porsche, and even Joe McCauley getting in the mix as well, the Ferrari being there in the top 5. And you have to think, if Wolf Matuszka was here tonight, and it's a shame that he can't be here with us tonight, I believe he's busy, he's been busy on the weekend and he isn't available for this Monday, but you'd have to think that if he was here as well, he'd be right up there with him.
Yeah, certainly Wolf, a driver not to be kind of, you know, thought twice about. He does have some very good pace behind him. Again, we've seen him countless times in RCI events, always scoring really highly and never far from Joe McCauley's Ferrari. So I feel like if he was here tonight, unfortunately he's not, he would be in that top 5 mix with Joe indeed. As we ride on board here with Jake Boswell in P10, overall in the Lamborghini, coming down towards the final turns of 17 and 18 of Rivazza. Looking towards his Delta, it does appear to be slightly up. Loses a little bit of time possibly on the brakes, not as good as his previous lap, but good run through Rivazza, sets him up quite well for the start-finish straight. Delta looking good. We're going to see where Jake can chuck the Lamborghini, number 47, as he crosses the line here. Slight improvement up to P9. Right behind Andy Boardman, another driver who has been super quick. As we watch here, Klaus Nyring coming out of the final turn, cutting towards the pit wall in the Porsche. Very similar to the Coca-Cola livery, I feel, with that. Fires himself up into P10, just behind Jake Boswell, so a good gain there. as we see Jordan Daly across the line. Don't believe Jordan maybe improved. Stops the car toward pit exit, possibly going back to get some more fuel. Maybe seeing if he can get another couple of laps in. Still just under 5 minutes to go in this session. Adam Dubil, we did see him and Stewie battling Benjamin Harmon at Spa very closely indeed through Sector 1. Adam definitely had the legs on him. Sector 2, Stewie returned the legs back to him. And Sector 3, Adam pulled away again. So that's like typical cat and mouse we keep talking about with these cars in this mixed field. You have certain cars that are strong in other areas compared to their predecessor, and the Ferrari is just quick in a straight line. It's about the only place it can be quick. So really showing its true colours here at Imola. Ferrari looking very good indeed as he puts himself P4. Adam Dubil comes across the line at P15. I don't believe there was an improvement there on the last lap. So we're going to see maybe the time's coming down a little bit. Again, the circuit is now fast, so getting rubbered in all the time. Time should start coming down a little bit more, I'd imagine, towards the end of the session, Ryan.
Adam Dubiel's lap was quicker by 0.3 of a second. Unfortunately, it was invalid, so no improvement there in terms of his position. If he had, if that was a valid lap, it would have taken him into the top 10. So Adam Dubiel will continue onwards and he'll try and see if he can find those 0.3 without exceeding track limits. Meanwhile, we'll just keep watching here at the moment what's going on. This is Tom Bryant right now, who their banker lap put them 18th initially. Now they're down to 27th. And Tom Bryant had a top 10 finish, I believe it was, out at Hungaroring last week. So, you know, he's going to be looking for more out of himself coming through the final corner now and up towards the finish line. Up by 0.3 of a second by the looks of it, losing a bit on the exit of the final corner, comes up towards the line and does improve, but unfortunately not enough to get himself any further up the grid. He is closer to the rest of the pack, and if he could find an extra couple tenths of a second around here, that could jump him a good 5 or 6 places. So Tom Bryant very, very close to getting himself into, should we say, the top 20. He just needs to find a bit more here or there to get there. Benjamin Harmon up on his lap time by almost 0.2 of a second right now, but it's not enough at the moment to challenge Kumpu's provisional pole.
Yeah, Nico's lap, certainly a very good one. Not come close to it, and I don't think he's beaten it since he set it, so possibly hit the wall in that Lamborghini there. As we ride on board here with Benjamin Harmon coming down towards turn 17-18 of Ravazza. Very tricky corner, downhill braking, so you carry a lot more momentum in and you realise you've got to brake a lot more earlier than your brain kind of tells you to. It feels a little bit wrong at first, but once you get that drilled in, it is very easy indeed. Careful not to take too much of the anti-cut to upset the car. You want to get a nice clean run with minimal kind of oversteer as Benjamin Harmon here comes up to the line for a small improvement, I believe. Takes himself down to a 1:43.2, but still 0.2 off Nico Kumpu's Lamborghini. As we see, Klaus Nyring there fires himself up the order into P4. Very strong lap from him at a 1:43.3. So again, time's coming down all the time here. Coming towards the end of qualifying now. Not going to see many drivers getting another lap with 1:20 to go. Pavel Jabowski there comes across the line in P11. Maybe a slight improvement in the Lamborghini. We've got a big brick of Lamborghinis again, Ryan, in the midfield from P8 down to P15. So we might even see that Lamborghini train kind of reform that we saw at Hungaroring as Christian Romano there jumps up into P14. Another improvement there. Adam Dubil coming out of Ravazza looking very good on his Delta. Possibly a provisional pole here for Adam Dubil if the lap is valid. He crosses the line. Where does it put him? Puts him up into P2. And Caracas there fires right back at him with another lap of a 1:42.7. So the Porsche, although me and Ryan, you know, said it might not be that competitive, Caracas has certainly unlocked the potential of this 992. Highest place one, splitting the Lamborghinis off the front row there. So yeah, very, very close qualifying session here. Everybody constantly trading times, Ryan. It's very close to put your finger on who will take this pole.
It is very, very close, and Heilmann is coming around the final corner now. He's coming up towards the line, and he is up on his time by about 1/4 of a second, loses a bit of time coming out, but this could throw him onto the front row of the grid. This is exactly what the championship leader needs, and it has thrown him onto the front row of the grid. He'll have another chance at a lap as he crosses the line with 2 seconds to go. I think Kumpu is done. Yep, he's down on his delta, and he does not have enough time to start another lap. Dubiel is in the pit lane, so it doesn't look like it's going to be a Lamborghini on pole position. Yet Pitchek has parked it, and Ustrich has crossed the line, so it will be a Porsche on pole position, but it's been a lot closer through this qualifying session than we've seen it all season long. And, well, Joe McCauley, he's in 8th place at the moment, and although it's not over yet, he's up by 0.3 of a second as he comes out of the final corner here. Joe McCauley, this could be a very late shout to throw him onto the second row of the grid. Let's not put it out of doubt here. Joe McCauley crosses the line. He goes 5th to put an end to the qualifying session, his best qualifying of the season. And given what we saw at the Hungaroring, John, I wouldn't put it out of doubt that that car could be side by side with the leaders down into turn 1.
Yeah, we saw towards the end of the stream last week on RCI TV the start that Joe McCauley got. Absolutely blistering pace off the line down to turn 1. Probably made up about 6 or 7 places before he had to slam on the anchors to stop all that speed from running him off into T1. As we see here, Polyakov, another driver last week with a strong showing coming out of Rivatsa, pretty much matching his delta, so I don't think we're going to see much of an improvement from Polyakov as Heilmann behind, looking very good on the delta. Can he put himself on pole? I don't think it's going to be enough. A good lap anyway of a 1:42.860, not too far off Caracas's time. So if these guys can trade laps like that in the race, it could be super, super close between the two Porsches at the front, Ryan.
Definitely looks like it will be super, super close. And, well, the racing on track is not the only thing that's going to be close here at the moment, because it's quite close in the championship standings as well. And we did say that after qualifying, we'd give you a little bit of a look. So here it is. We're 3 rounds in. So, of course, the trot round has now been added to one of the 3 rounds that we had. Of course, a lot of people were on tied points last week. Not so much the case here, but it is still very, very close. It's Benjamin Harmon that leads then on 127 points, 12 points ahead of Grantas Caracas, who is on pole for this race. Then it's Nikolai Polyakov, who, despite his poor result last week, that has counted for his drop round, so he is 3rd in the championship with 109 points. Then it's with 95 points, Felipe Moreira and Klaus Neiring, rounding out the top 5 with 88. The first Lamborghini on 71 points in 6th place. Martin Lawrence on 65 after his shock win last week. And then it is Lamborghinis to round out the top 10 with Jarzabowski, Dubiel and Kumpu on 59, 53 and 52. Then on to the second page, 51 points. You can see where it's starting to get very, very close here. Christian Lindgren in 11th place. Ostrich on 49, and then just a point behind him is Hagstrom Vigeskir, and then 4 points off of him, Boardman, and then another 4 points back is De Kaiser on 40. 3 points between himself and Jaroslav Roth, and then Jake Boswell is just a point behind the Czech driver as well. And a point behind Jake Boswell is a fellow Brit in Matthew Kingston Lee. And then on 34 points, we also have Boris Sterney, and 33 points is Bart Matcher. Very, very close in the mid-pack of the championship right now as Bart Matcher rounds out that top 20. But we're not done yet, because tied for that 20th place, he is with Nicholas Nordquist, and then just a point behind them is Christopher Verstappen. Tom Bryant breaks the 1 point behind the other trend, and he has 28 points to his name, but lucky for him, he's only 1 point ahead of Stay Hughes, who is 1 point ahead of both Dvorak and Matushka on 26 apiece for 25th and 26th place. Then it's 23 points for Dolezal and 22 for Beal. Stevenson on 20, and Benjamin Schumann rounding out the top 30 on 17 points. Then Jordan Daly on 13 points, and Joe McCauley, unfortunately, only on 2 points in the overall standings. How he needs a good result here tonight. Jack Harvey, Victor Nordquist, Kaishek, and Romano, all pointless so far this season. Christian Romano is, in fact, a new mid-season sign-up for the championship, so this is his first round of the championship. And then Peter Henneberg, Atterberg Ertan, Luke Stokes, and Jack Alexander all signed out of the championship. And the same goes for Vince van Merveld and Angel Inestrosa. Well, John, it's everyone's favourite time, I suppose. Or everyone's not favourite time, because some people dread it whenever I have to ask them the all-important question is, who would you put down as your favourite to win here tonight at Imola?
Super tricky one tonight, Ryan. Normally, I can slap my money down and say, this driver is going to win. Tonight, it's too hard to call. We got Caracas at the front with some great pace. Homan pretty much matched him in qualifying. The blistering pace of Nico Kumpu straight out of the box on his first few laps. And Adam De Buil has been a very quick driver at Spa. And of course, that Ferrari there you see on the right-hand side of your screen for FFS Racing with Joe McCauley at the helm. I think that will be one to watch, especially off the start line. The Ferrari just picks up such great pace from all the power, but then obviously can't really put it around a corner. So I can't call it, Ryan. I really can't. I want to say Heilman again. I've said Heilman every week, and every week it hasn't been true. So we'll go Heilman again. Why not?
Well, Benjamin Heilman, we fortunately have a bit of an insight as to what he's thinking here with him being an RCI staff member, and he just said to us in the commentary chat he has no idea what to do for turn one, and Benjamin Heilman, probably like a lot of us, just sat there on the grid at the moment thinking to himself, what's going to happen at the start here? He knows that the Lamborghinis, they have the better straight line speed, so if they're coming out of the corner at Ravazza behind him, there's a good chance they're going to be at least alongside him by the time they get to the braking zone for the first chicane. But he also has to worry for the start of the race about Joe McCauley, as you said. We have no idea what's going to happen with that Ferrari. We assume that Joe McCauley is going to at least be in third place by the time we hit the braking zone. But will it be more than that potentially for the 1, 2, 3? We'll have to see, and it is great to see all the drivers getting ready here, 20 seconds away from the start of the formation lap. And as you say, John, I think it's too close to call. I can't really, I can't pick a definitive, this person looks like they're going to win tonight, like you said, but I'm gonna stick to my bias. I'm gonna say Nico Kumpu because I am a Lamborghini fan. And he has looked like the best Lamborghini out there on the grid so far today. So hopefully Nico Kumpu doesn't let us down. And hopefully we haven't jinxed Benjamin Heilman and Nico Kumpu, because both of them definitely do not need that in their championship at the moment.
Yeah, hopefully no curse of the commentator tonight. As we see here, the guys all peeling away on their formation map. Very careful of our Ryan Mawson on the grid, going between all of the cars. Hopefully no health and safety forms to fill up tonight, but as you said, Ryan, it is far too close to call. We've got 3 cars with 3 very different strengths within the circuit. We've got the Porsche, which is great in the corners and on the brakes, as we've seen in the past. We've got the Lamborghini, which is a good mix of both, great in the corners and on the straights. And then we have the Solo Ferrari, which is just an absolute rocket ship in a straight line of Joe McCauley, as we see on the screen here. So it's going to be a very interesting one. Interested to see if Joe McCauley can stick it to the Lamborghini and the Porsche lockout ahead of him. We've got 2 Porsches on the front row. We've got 2 Lamborghinis behind, as he goes for a little bit of grass cut on the hairpin there, making sure the lawns at Imola are nicely trimmed and prepared for tonight's event.
What do we do if Joe McCauley leads into turn 1? I mean, for starters, what does Joe McCauley do? Because I think even he hasn't planned this far ahead. He had a great start at Hungaroring, which we saw, and he said he also had a pretty good start at Spa as well. Going along the Kemmel Straight. He has a nice rundown. Obviously, not as big of a rundown to turn 1 as he probably would have liked. In fact, it would be probably bigger at Monza, I would say. But he's still going to get a very, very good start compared to the rest of the cars out here. If he leads into turn 1, we've seen how hard that car is to get past with Wolf Matuszka. You know, you wouldn't put it past Joe McCauley if he gets into the lead early to just kind of be the cork in the bottle that we've seen drivers be sometimes, and we've seen Wolf Matuszka be at multiple points throughout this season. And I'm not saying that Joe McCauley is going to go ahead and win the race, but I'm saying there's always a chance that he can go ahead and win the race. But it's going to be a big, big ask. But if there's anyone that's, well, if there's anyone that's going to have the bravery to do it down into turn 1, it's going to be that man right there.
Yeah, certainly can't wait to see this race start, Ryan, as we round through turns 17 and 18 of Rivazza, heading up towards the start-finish line, as we are 2 by 2, as every week we are. We have a Porsche lockout on the front row, we have Lamborghinis in 3 and 4 behind, another Ferrari in the mix, and then 2 more Porsche and 2 more Lamborghini. So we're going to see who can get the run down into the turn 1 chicane there, as Harman backs out a little bit, goes a little bit less than Caracas. Is he trying to maybe play a smart game, maybe trying to defend that middle line from that Ferrari that's going to shoot up between and split them like the Red Sea? Time will tell as we go nearly to green here at Imola. We've got a very long drag on the red, and the green flag drops at Imola as we are go down into turn 1. We see there Benjamin Harman coming across to cover the inside line. Joe McCauley heading up the middle there, getting his elbows out already on Adam Dubill's Lamborghini, as Caracas will be the first one through the first chicane, followed by Harman, followed by Nico Kumpu, followed by Adam Dubill there, as Joe McCauley gets muscled out a little bit on the outside line, allows Klaus Nyring, in the Porsche to go up the inside. And dare I say it, I think that might have been a semi-clean start, Ryan.
It definitely looked pretty good to me, knock on wood that it stays exactly the same way. Joe McCauley didn't get the start he probably wanted. A bit of contact by the looks of it with Dubiel really put him off, but you saw Benjamin Harman just tucked in behind Caracas at the first opportunity he had to try and gain some slipstream down into turn 1 to ward off Kumpu. It has worked for the time being. McCauley has lost 1 position to Klaus Nyring, by the way, and we're looking further back here as well, as it has looked pretty good so far on the start. Romano is the one car just out there, the 940 way back at the moment. But as we watch the rest of the field here, it looks pretty good right now. The live stewards crossing their fingers that it's going to be a nice clean start and a nice clean lap 1 as we go into Variante Alta for the first time. Watching Jake Boswell, a couple of cars just going off the track for the first time around here. It's so difficult when you're trying to go 2 by 2 around here. You need to get single file as quick as possible, as the pit window has opened before we get to the end of lap 1. But it's going to be Grantas Caracas that leads us over the line for the very first racing lap. Benjamin Harman follows him by Kumpu, Dubiel, Nyring, Joe McCauley, who we're on board with now. Pinchik, Polyakov, De Kaiser and Ostrog is your top 10, and here comes Joe McCauley in the straight line speed of the Ferrari. Look at the speed difference against the Porsche, but unfortunately he just has to brake early into the first chicane, and that will allow Nyring to get back through. But Joe McCauley knows if he can be that bit closer coming out of the final corner, he can power past the Porsche and keep that place into the first chicane. And Klaus Nyring, if I were him now, I'd be very concerned about how close that Ferrari is to me coming out of Rivazza on this next lap.
Yeah, that was some super speed from the Ferrari there. Didn't really look like it had a lot coming out of Rivazza, but the further you got down the straight, the more the Ferrari kind of reeled in that Porsche, almost like it had DRS, similar to a Formula 1 car, enabled the amount of closing gap Joe McCauley had on the back of Nyring there. So definitely going to be Nyring watching his mirrors as we see our first penalty come through. We've got a stop and go 30 seconds for speeding in the pit lane. I assume somebody has taken their stop very early. Victor Nordquist there. Not having a lot of luck in qualifying and not having a lot of luck in the race. Pit entry at Imola is very early, earlier than you think, and is very easy to get caught out. I myself have been caught out a few times, as we watch here Jake Boswell and I believe possibly Bart Matcher in one of those Porsches. We seem to have double vision here at the moment. We've got Bart Matcher followed by Victor Nordquist, I believe, in the Porsche behind. These guys still side by side as we head up the hill to Piratella of turn 9. There we see the legs of the Lamborghini just getting the edge on the Porsche, tucking back into single file now. So Piratella, a very hard kind of corner to go side by side. And speaking of side by side, we see Joe McCauley there and Klaus Nyring kind of switching positions before the pit lane had even ended. The absolute blistering speed on that Porsche. The Ferrari, as we see the Porsche of Nyring there closing right back up on corner exit. It's just insane how much the Ferrari gets and then loses as soon as you get to a corner. It's night and day as we see Klaus Nyring here. We're going to be staring at the back of that Ferrari for a little while until he gets to another corner there. We see Nyring tucking right back up under the rear wing, gets side by side, heading up into Piratella, but then the legs of the Ferrari just pulls on him, Ryan. This is some crazy stuff we're watching right now.
I was watching the timing board that we have just above us, John, as you were commentating on the action between the cars that had pitted on the first lap, and I just saw it getting smaller and smaller and smaller, and I'm thinking, my word, Joe McCauley's just going to power past the Porsche, and that's exactly what he did. And now this is the problem for Klaus Nyring. Every time they come out of the corners, if he's behind, he's not going to outdrag this Ferrari out of the corners. He has to beat it on the brakes. But that's something that's very, very difficult to do through the twisty section here at Imola. But now Klaus Nyring, he's in the worst part of the track. This is where the Ferrari loves the circuit. Nice braking zone into Ravazza. And now we come back out onto the start-finish straight, and Klaus Nyring's just going to watch this car disappear into the distance whilst he's in the slipstream. It will not assist him here. Polyakov's chasing down the likes of Pitchik in behind, but you can just see that Ferrari there disappearing up the road. There's nothing that Nyring can do, and now he's vulnerable to the 41 behind that's got the slipstream on him.
Yeah, the Ferrari is absolutely insane as soon as it gets kind of anywhere out of third to fourth gear in a corner. So being a Porsche or a Lamborghini behind that thing is going to be super tricky to get past. You might have a small enough kind of run between the Villeneuve chicane and Tosa, which we are heading up to now, where the Porsche maybe can get the good drive out of Villeneuve and fire it up the inside into Tosa. As we see here, Polyakov taking a slight look at Pitchik there in the Ukrainian coloured Lamborghini. As we head up the hill there, we see the speed difference again kicking in. The Lamborghini pulling, but not as much as the Ferrari, so still a little bit competitive. Porsche looks a little bit better on the brakes through Piratella at the top of the hill. As we head down to Aqua Minerale here, tricky double apex almost. You've got to treat it like two separate corners. Right-hander, careful on the anti-cut, careful on the left here, not to run too far, as it will impede a track limit, and obviously 3 of those and you are looking to be in trouble. As we see the Porsche got great drive up the hill there, gets great drive in the corner, but then the Lamborghini just puts its foot down and just disappears again. So we're almost getting this cat and mouse effect that we saw at other circuits again. As soon as you get to a little bit of straight, Lamborghini pulls. As soon as you get to a corner, Porsche closes up. So as we see here, Andy Boardman defending from, I believe, defending from Dvorak there in the black and green Porsche. Very similar to Christian Lindgren's livery, easy to get those two mixed up. As we head out of Ravazza here onto the straight, we're probably going to see that speed difference again. We're going to see Andy Boardman probably pulling away on Dvorak there, down into turn 1 of Tamburello. As we skip forward to Pitchik again, looking towards the back of Klaus Nyring, who is unfortunately looking at the back of that Ferrari, probably wishing that that Porsche had a little bit more straight line speed. But if Polyakov can keep Pitchik busy, it's probably going to allow Nyring to kind of disappear up the road a little bit, build a little bit of a gap as we see them get a little bit out of shape. We see Polyakov jumping over the curbs, complete opposite to what we're seeing Pitchik do in the Lamborghini. He's very kind of far off the anti-cut. I'm not sure if Nyring there made a little bit of a mistake there coming out of Tosa. Looked a little bit sideways, looked a little bit off the usual line where you would be, towards the left-hand side of the screen over the exit curb, and heading up towards the hill again of Piratella down into Aqua Minerale. We're going to see Polyakov gain on the brakes like he did last lap. And we saw Pitchik looking a little bit nervous coming out of there, as we see Polyakov all over the back of the Lamborghini trying to get the best drive he can out of Aqua Minerale up to Variante Alta. Okay, careful on the curves here. We see Polyakov very aggressive on the curves. He's got a very aggressive driving style, Polyakov. We've seen from the Hungaroring. He was really wrestling the wheel of that Porsche, and it looks like he's probably doing a similar kind of technique here, Ryan.
Yeah, definitely very, very aggressive and late in towards Ravazza, and there's contact, and Pitchik's been turned around. I think De Keyser had nowhere to go, really. Tried to go onto the outside line to maybe avoid it and just ended up tagging him. You talked about the aggressive nature, and just later on the brakes here, Polyakov, I think personally, maybe didn't have the right to have a lunge down there. We'll have to see what the stewards say. It has been fairly clean to start the race, so will be interesting to see what their verdict is. Probably one of the first big incidents of the race, but unfortunate for Pitchik, he's been turned around and now has to get going again. Meanwhile, Joe Macaulay still has Nyring on his tail, because when we get through the twisty parts of the track, the Porsche starts catching, but he is making inroads to Dubiel in the Lamborghini Super Trofeo, so that's good to see that Joe Macaulay not only able to keep Nyring at bay, but also making inroads to one of the Lamborghinis. A podium for Joe Macaulay, dare I say it, it's not too far out of sight. He can see Kumpu at this point.
Yeah, say the Ferrari, it's very odd to see it kind of in the top 5 position, so I mean, even the achievement in itself, possibly getting this in a top 5 finish, let alone a podium, would be a great achievement. As we see Nyring there, like we did Polyakov last time by, great drive out of the Aqua Minerale section up to the outer chicane here. Both cars using quite a lot of the yellow curb on the inside. Be careful not to run too wide. Again, another place that is very easy to pick up a track limit penalty as we head down here into Ravazza through 16, braking into 17 and the second part of 18.
I'm just wondering if we can go on board here with Joe Macaulay and just have a look and see exactly how much this Ferrari is going to start catching this Lamborghini. You can see it's already in 6th gear as we're coming through the first of the kinks, and here it is, closing, and that just keeps climbing. The speed just doesn't stop, and Adam Dubiel can't do anything about it. He's just a sitting duck, and that's difficult to say for a Lamborghini Super Trofeo, or a Lamborghini in general, to be a sitting duck on the straights, but compared to that Ferrari Challenge Evo, it is. And now Adam Dubiel is in the same situation that Klaus Nyring has been in since about lap 2, where he's just stuck behind Joe Macaulay now, but the added difference is Dubiel doesn't have as much downforce in the corners as the Porsche does, so he's even less likely to outbrake Joe Macaulay into the braking zones.
Yeah, the Ferrari is super tricky to get past. As soon as you get to any kind of bit of a straight, it just literally disappears. Adam Dubiel there down the start-finish straight could literally do nothing from that Ferrari. I mean, we know Lamborghini is a raging bull. We don't know them so much as a sitting duck, but we have just witnessed that entirely, as Joe Macaulay is going to be probably getting his head down now. He's going to be focusing on the back of Nico Kumpu's 256 Lamborghini up the road, and chasing that podium. And yeah, Ryan, possibly a podium, as we see Joe Macaulay there going very wide. Leaves the door open a little bit to Adam Dubiel as they go side by side into the kink of 16 down into Ravazza, but then we see the power of the Ferrari there just gaining, but a little bit early on the brakes for Joe Macaulay. The Lamborghini of Adam Dubiel using that advantage to his gain there.
But here we go again.
See here, Ryan, we're going to see the massive drag down the start finish straight. We're going to see Joe Macaulay probably in 6th gear already, hitting 7th gear, pulls out to the left. Adam Dubiel literally cannot do anything here. Even if you swerve, you're going to cause an accident. Best thing Dubiel can do is let him by, tuck into the slipstream, and see if he can follow him through the corners. But these guys battling is going to hinder Joe Macaulay's progression onto the back of Nico Kumpu. If I was Adam Dubiel, I'd probably be playing it a little bit smart, maybe sitting behind that Ferrari. We've already seen it pull out a gap on Klaus Nyring. We've seen him keep Klaus Nyring behind him, and they have broken away from the guys behind. So they are in a good little pack here. If they work smart and race together, they could probably see a gain up to the back of Nico Kumpu, which could create another little bit of a train, maybe even work with Nico to the back of Heilmann. Who knows here, but very smart play here. You've got to really think smart, because battling that Ferrari every time out of, Aqua Minerale into Alta to Ravazza, you're just going to be losing time, because as soon as you come out Ravazza, that's it. It's going past no matter what you do, Ryan.
Yeah, if Joe McCauley is within half a second of you, he's going to be ahead of you before the braking zone. That's pretty much how it looks at the moment. Caracas has checked out, by the way, 3.6 seconds up the road from Benjamin Harmon. Just looks like he's going to sail off into the distance. We still have that mandatory stop to serve, though. That could always spice things up later on in the race, but Benjamin Harmon at the moment probably got his eyes facing backwards right now. 1.5 seconds between himself and Nico Kumpu, who is doing a very, very good job of matching Benjamin Harmon's lap times. Hasn't matched his best lap, but has been matching his last couple of laps for quite a while now, and Benjamin Harmon had a very, very scruffy lap this time around. A 44.1 compared to Kumpu's 43.9, so 2/10 quicker for Kumpu. He is reeling him in ever so slowly, but like you said, John, he's going to have to, keep his wits about him, because if he's not careful, that prancing horse is going to start catching up with him sooner than later, and especially considering that Joe McCauley went faster than even Kumpu did on that last lap. When he's got clean air, when he's not being harassed by the cars behind, he can match or even better what Kumpu and Heilmann are doing right now.
Yeah, so consistency is one of these big things we keep hearing about in ACC. You can have raw outlap kind of pace, 1 or 2 laps here and there being really quick and then fall off a cliff. I mean, if you're consistently quick, like we're seeing here, obviously the pro split in RCI is some of the best drivers of the community. We will see these lap times being drilled in very consistently, lap after lap after lap, as we see Polyakov here flag up for a drive-through. I believe that would be for the incident down into Ravazza. So stewards have not slid us the piece of paper across the desk yet, but our live timing has been updated with a drive-through for Polyakov. Going to be super frustrated, especially after his show at Hungaroring last time out. So hopefully he keeps his head in check this time and it doesn't spiral out of control like we saw last week, Ryan.
Connor Morgan, the head steward for today, is just popped into the commentary box, and he's handed me a few pieces of paper, and I think this is pretty much the report for the first lap of the race. So we have incident on lap 1, turn 3, involving the 222 and the 19, that's the racing incident. Lap 1, turn 2, involving the 288 and the 36 is a racing incident, and the 123 and the 840 is a racing incident. Also, confirmation, by the way, that drive-through for Polyakov is for track limits. That is not the incident involving pit chip. We'll get to that in a moment. Incident on lap 1, turn 15, involving the 555, chicane cut but no positions gained. And then incident on lap 1, turn 17, involving the 81 and the 999. Warning for the 999. 999 is late on the brakes, makes contact, pushing the 81 wide, but the 999 gives the place back. So that is the lap 1 report that we've had. That's all out of the way. Just a warning to one car, which is absolutely fantastic to see. So confirmation that Polyakov's drive-through is for track limits. So he's obviously been very, very naughty, as you suggested, John Dalton, with going a bit wide or maybe cutting across a bit too much on some of these corners. And his day might go from bad to worse if he ends up getting a penalty for the Pitchick incident. Of course, we don't know the resolution of that one yet. We'll keep you updated when we have it, but not how Polyakov would want to, should we say, restart his season after what was a pretty forgettable round 3.
Yeah, certainly so. Round 3 was one of those to forget. So hopefully he's kind of learnt from that. He's going to keep his head cool. He gets a drive-through. He's pushing the limits of the car. He's very much pushing the track limits. It's so easy to pick up warnings here at Imola. Typical Piratella, turn 9 at the top of the hill. Again, a lot of AstroTurf on the outside of that corner. Very easy to kind of jab the throttle too early, drag the nose wide over the sensors on that end. At Minerale, again, the second part more so than the first part heading up the hill. Again, very easy to run over the left side of the curb. You've got a little few anti-cut sausages. They're normally the line that is kind of determined as in or out of track limits. And the Variante Alta is, again, another place to be caught out by. As we see, I believe Polyakov has just fired it up the inside of Nyring there into turn 1, as we've been chatting about track limits. So Polyakov, although with a drive-through, not wanting to lose any time at all, as we see him bouncing over the curve there, almost blocking Nyring from going any other way around him. Replay cut a little bit short there, didn't really see the start of it, but a position gain nonetheless for Polyakov. Can maybe focus on getting onto the back of Adam DeVille, as Joe McCauley has driven up the road from these guys. So we saw Joe go past them earlier on, ran a little bit of a train with them, kind of battled with them a little bit, and yeah, Joe has disappeared in that Ferrari with the outright straight line speed, as we watch here Andy Boardman fighting with Ostrich into the Aqua Minerale section, into the double right. This track limits here is one you want to be careful of. You can get a good drive out of Aqua Minerale. It does set you up quite well for the Alta chicane here. Andy Boardman not quite close enough, maybe wanting to tuck in down the start straightaway to kind of get alongside that Lamborghini of Ostrich into turn one. Turn one, again, a very easy place to pass if you can set yourself up well. If your kind of opponent goes a bit defensive, makes it very, very awkward for yourself. Almost parks the car on the apex when you've got a car on the inside there. You've got to scrub a lot of speed to kind of make the left and then flick it back to the right again, as we watch here of Andy Boardman tucking right up behind the back of Ostrich in that. And as we ride on board here, they jink him left, they're jinking right. Andy Boardman trying to size up the move. Ostrich holding that inside line, not going to give it up to Andy Boardman at all. Almost goes to break diagonally, has to jink away from Boardman, but he runs himself a little bit too deep here, as Boardman possibly with the switchbacks here through the left, as he comes out into the run up to Villeneuve. Again, gets the inside line. Is he alongside enough? Possibly jumps over the sausage, but then gives Ostrich the inside line again as they switch back again, Ryan. Constant switches here as Ostrich there takes the inside line into the hairpin. Watch, he doesn't outbrake himself and run Boardman off the road. Very clean from these guys here, side by side for pretty much the whole of Sector 1 there, Ryan. That was some great racing, and I don't think it's over yet.
No, it's definitely not over yet as we come up towards Piratella now, and they're going to go side by side again. Andy Boardman, though, just a bit wide and has to concede. But absolutely fantastic between the two Super Trofeo cars, and like you said, it's not quite done yet. Confirmation, by the way, that Boris Durney had a drive-through penalty for causing a collision. That's the first penalty from the stewards today. He has already gone in and served that penalty, as far as I understand, but this battle is not done yet between Andy Boardman and Ostrich. And absolutely fantastic to see, as you said, is what we love to see. Drivers going to the limit on the inside, on the outside, but making it fair. There was no rash moves. There was no weaving on the straights. It was just good, hard, wheel-to-wheel racing. And like you said, we might just see it all over again here as Andy Boardman right on the back. As we come out of Ravazza, down towards turn one we go. He's got the slipstream. I don't know if he's going to be close enough this time to have a look down. Doesn't look like he will, so maybe Andy Boardman just having to regroup himself now as we go through the first chicane. But, well, we've got to keep an eye on these two for the rest of the race, because they are looking very, very good. Kumpu, by the way, starting to drop off the likes of Heilman, but Joe McCauley has managed to keep that gap between himself and Kumpu at a somewhat reasonable margin. Only about 3.5 seconds between the two of them at the moment. So it's only gone up by about half a second between the two over the last 5 or 6 laps.
Yeah, possibly Joe looking at maybe dialing the Ferrari back a little bit. He's got a bit of room to Adam DeVille behind him, so maybe looking to try and preserve the Ferrari tyres, try not to get too much oversteer, too much understeer going into a corner. But it has just been brought to my attention by somebody in our chat, Ryan, that it appears Polyakov has disqualified himself by not taking his drive-through, by the looks of it. I don't see Polyakov on the board anymore.
Yeah, I don't see him either, and that is a shame if he hasn't come in to serve that drive-through penalty. Maybe not aware that he was given a drive-through penalty for track limits, although the in-game system does try to inform you every single lap that you do have it. You have to serve it within 3 laps, of course, before you inevitably get disqualified by the in-game race control, so that's not something that the stewards will be policing, so they leave it up to ACC, and ACC has decided, well, you didn't do it within 3 laps, so there we go. So unfortunately for Polyakov, a round 4 that started out pretty well, that got a bit worse, has now got even worse, and They're picking up no points for their troubles. Watching a bit further down, Will Stevenson is the highest placed car that has come in and done their mandatory pit stop. So the 108 at the moment looking pretty good. He's got a 1 second gap behind him. Looks a bit less than that actually to Christopher Verstappen, and then Jake Boswell just in behind as well. So it's pretty close together, these lot, and if they have some clean air, if they can work together and tow each other along, could be some significant places for all of them to gain by the end of this. Imola has a very, very long pit lane. It's quite deceivingly long, actually, and with everyone having to do that mandatory pit stop, Will Stevenson at the front of the queue, top 10 could be on for him.
Yeah, certainly so. We've seen the clean kind of air strap not work all too well in the Challenge Cup so far, from beginning to now, but possibly this could be the round that changes it. Like you say, Ryan, if these guys work together, play it sensibly and avoid battling, it could kind of, make a few slight gains up the field when the pit stops do start cycling through. The main strategy we've seen from these guys a lot is just run the car until the pit window closes, basically, and dive in just before it does. Seems to be the tactic that worked out well, as we see here. Bart Matcher going toe-to-toe with, I believe, Boris Derny in the Lamborghini, heading up to Piratella. We've obviously seen the Lamborghini with better legs up the hill than the Porsche. Obviously, Porsche is going to gain in the brakes and in the corner. And then, in theory, Boris Derny will gap a little bit down to Raleigh, where again Bart Matcher will close up to the back of him. We've seen the Porsche super strong coming up the hill there, as we see Bart Matcher almost giving Boris Derny there a bump draft, I believe. Bart Matcher there making a small mistake coming out of Aqua Minerale, which has hampered his run down into the Alta chicane. But yeah, everywhere we look today, there seems to be exciting battles, as somebody has just mentioned in our chat. Certainly not a dull race on this one, Ryan. Lots to commentate.
Yeah, very, very different to the Hungaroring race, which is a bit of a race of mysteries. And, Boris Derny, I've just seen, has gone off, so that's allowed Bart Matcher through. We're looking at Ollie Pitchik, who was unfortunately turned around by Polyakov earlier on in the race, but he's having a good race with Dvorak at the moment for 11th place, and looking like Pitchik's going to be on the inside line coming into Piratella, and he's going to be through on the 340, but he's going to go slightly wide. That will allow Dvorak to come back in on the inside. It'll turn into the outside line for Aqua Minerale, and that's not where you want to be, so Ollie Pitchik will get the move done, but he's gone deep into Aqua Minerale. He'll have to cut across, not hit the anti-cut curbs, and that allows Dvorak straight back through. So Lamborghini versus Lamborghini, we've seen this plenty of times before so far this race, but it's still very, very close between these two, and Ollie Pitchik looked like he had it done, but just that slight mistake cost him, John.
Yeah, very easy to upset the cars on the curbs here at Imola. Some really big curbs in some really awkward places that you certainly don't want to be hitting. As we see here, Bart Matcher sizing up another move on Boris Derny as those guys switch back position. But we've also got another Porsche on the back of Bart Matcher here, making it a little bit of a train as Bart there goes a little bit wide, opens the door into the second part of Aqua Minerale. He's going to get himself muscled over the curbs there. Proper elbows out racing this from these guys in the Cup class. It's great to see that, as we do see a position change with Bart Matcher in the 5.
Dolezal!
As we see some contact there. Very, very close stuff here as Bart Matcher takes the position back and does open up a little bit of a gap. So going to flick back to a race replay here on board with Bart Matcher breaking into the Variante Alta, as we see Bart getting a great run there, and the Porsche ahead just oversteering out of sight. No contact was made from Bart there. Kept his head quite clean. I'd say quite easy to oversteer these cars. Second gear, there does seem to be a very big kind of peak in the power band. Very easy to get wheel spin, especially when you've upset the car already over those giant yellow curves at Variante Alta. Very easily done, even in a GT3 car with tons of grip and downforce, let alone in these Cup cars that are running, slightly skinnier aero profiles. Not so many diffusers, not so many canards, slightly skinnier tyres.
No traction control.
No traction control as well, Ryan.
Definitely have contributed towards that that slide, the lack of traction control. Maybe just a bit aggressive on the power, and well, making things very, very interesting and, well, keeping things interesting. Klaus Naring close to Adam Dubiel, but not quite able to do anything in a straight line by the looks of it. De Kaiser catching up to these two, by the way, though. Could make this a bit more interesting as they have dropped off the back of Joe McCauley. Joe McCauley, by the way, starting to make a slight inroad to Nico Kumpu now. It was 3.8 seconds the last time I had a look at the gap. Now it's 3.2, so Joe McCauley maybe, John, he's just found the sweet spot for that car at the moment. He's found the ideal line and he's hitting those laps, lap after lap after lap. He was 2/10 quicker than Nico Kumpu on the previous lap by. And it looks at the moment like Nico Kumpu, as it comes, well, later on in the race, that gap looks like it's going to come down. And our broadcast director has actually been informing me that it was as high as 4.5 seconds at one point between the two of them. So Joe McCauley, absolutely amazing effort at the moment to bring that gap down. And, well, we'll have to hope that it continues and maybe get a battle for the podium between Joe McCauley and Nico Kumpu later in this race. Meanwhile, we'll look back towards Bart Matcher and Dolezal. Dolezal has got back past Bart Matcher, but that Porsche Cup car, John, it's looking a bit shifty for Dolezal at the moment in the 191.
Yeah, possibly Dolezal there. Maybe dialed out all the aero on that rear end to make himself a bit of a rocket ship in a straight line, trying to imitate maybe the Ferrari in some kind of way, maybe trying to catch the Lamborghinis, but again, he's maybe hampered himself in the corner. Say the rear tyres won't be like in the monumental slide he had coming out of Variante Alta last time by, but again, he is showing great pace there. He's already gapped Bart Matcher by quite a fair margin there, so certainly one to watch as we see Klaus Naring here heading down the pits. I believe we've got another car possibly in there with him in the shape of a Lamborghini as we flick back here to Christoph Verstappen, last season's Asian Masters champion, I believe. Very odd to see him so far down the field, maybe not gelling quite as well with these cup cars as he'd have liked to. So Belgian driver, raced against them many a time, very clean and fair driver, always races you super hard. So yeah, props to Christoph for keeping that Porsche under control. Certainly not an easy task as he looks towards the back of William Stevenson, who is going to be getting ever smaller in a straight line as we've seen here before round.
Yeah, William Stevenson progressing along, and so Klaus Naring has come out, and what is the gap between himself and William Stevenson? It's around probably about 10-8 seconds, I think, between the two of them. So given the fact that Klaus Naring was up into about 6th place, could be pretty close. Andy Boardman's about 10 seconds off of De Kaiser, so judging by that at the moment, you would say William Stevenson possibly in a shout for at least 7th place right now. So that early pit stop working at the moment. We'll see a little bit of a race replay of Christopher Verstappen just there of fighting his car, and you can see how much you do have to fight these cars. And Adam Dubiel has responded to Klaus Naring coming into the pit lane. So the undercut attempt by the 21, and we've seen the 840 respond immediately, John. And that to me says that Adam Dubiel doesn't have the confidence to stay ahead of Klaus Naring if Naring's in free air.
Yeah, potentially so. I mean, we know Adam Dubiel is a lot quicker in a straight line than Naring's Porsche. But again, it's not all about that straight line speed. You know, it does matter in the corners as well. And we have seen Naring very, very good in the corners, especially when he was trying to challenge Joe McCauley in the Ferrari. So I think Naring has jumped, and I think we're going to see a few others jump in behind and ahead as well. So maybe dragging the pit stops a little bit closer to the halfway mark this time at Imola, rather than, you know, typically what we've seen at previous rounds, everybody leaving it as late as possible, especially the front running guys. It's kind of a race of who will blink first out of the battles, and as soon as one of them blinks, they all tend to blink and follow in like sheep. As we see here, the gap between Adam Dubiel and Klaus Naring behind has increased a little bit, I believe, after these pit stops. It looks a little bit bigger than I remembered. Certainly so. So we're going to see if Naring can drill in those lap times to jump back up to the back of Adam Dubiel. I believe the stewards have been posting in possibly lap 2 and onwards reports, Ryan.
They definitely have been. We saw the drive-through penalty for Boris Dorney come out. He already went and served that. There was a racing incident on lap 2, turn 6, between the 340 and the 197. Drive-through penalty for the 40, which was Polyakov, but unfortunately he has retired, so can't serve that drive-through. Then it comes to a warning for the 747 for avoidable contact with the 340 and the 36. And then the rest of them is lap 5, turn 9 racing incident, lap 7, turn 19 racing incident, lap 11, turn 3 racing incident, lap 12, turn 5 racing incident, lap 12, racing incident. You get the idea. It's just been a load of minor taps and touches between drivers, and the stewards have looked at it and they've said, look, it's whatever, no major time loss here, get on with it. And, well, it's been very, very good to see. Only 2 penalties handed out so far this race from the stewards, a couple of warnings, of course, but as you usually see, but all in all, very, very good so far from the drivers. 26 minutes of the race left. Long may it continue.
So the commentator, I believe, Ryan, as we've seen Nicholas Nordqvist and one of the blue Porsches tangled together into Rivazza at the end of the lap there, as we were reading through those penalties. So another one for the stewards to start looking at. Probably won't be a racing incident, that one, but it's good to see some proper good old-fashioned kind of elbows out racing between these guys. Kind of, you know, everyone's respecting each other, everyone's racing side by side. It feels a lot less heated than Hungaroring did between everyone. So drivers may be learning from their mistakes, dialing it back a little bit as we watch here the battle for essentially P12 with Hagstrom and Vigashu. One of the drivers we've always seen who hits typically quite early in the Monday series, but hasn't done so today. Maybe trying a little bit of a different strat as a little bit of a glitch there. Not sure what happened on that one. Some technical issues. As we saw, the past couple of weeks, Hagstrom Vigashu being one of the early pitters on that one. Bart Matcher there, chasing the back of Nicholas Nordqvist. I'm not sure if it was Bart who got involved or possibly the other blue Porsche that looks awfully similar towards the... It was
Jaroslav Roth in the 288.
Indeed. So Bart Matcher there chasing the back of Nicholas Nordqvist. A lot of ground lost from Nicholas there. Big moment by Bart Matcher coming out of Aqua Minerale there up the hill. Again, tyres getting a little bit worn. So we're nearly 45 minutes into this race, and tyres are not going to be at their best, especially if you don't have traction control, such as all the Porsches in this field. But got a question in chat, Ryan, from one of our viewers about the real question is, will Dubil and Nyring cut Macaulay on the pit stops? What do you reckon?
It's hard to say at the moment because I have, funny enough, been watching this on the timing boards. Joe Macaulay's previous lap, 144.8. If I scroll down to Adam Dubiel and the likes of Klaus Nyring, Adam Dubiel 144.0, Klaus Nyring 143.8, so about a second quicker per lap at the moment. That would tell you that yes, they will jump him, but it's not always so simple. And with Adam Dubiel at the moment, if Klaus Nyring gets into a bit of a fight with him, that could definitely hold them up significantly. So at the moment, Joe Macaulay's just going to keep, doing his thing. He's going to keep going on his way, but it probably would be within his best interest to pit as early as possible, so that if he does come out behind them, he's as close as possible to slipstream back past them immediately and then start to stretch that gap as he has done for the, past 20 minutes.
Yeah, certainly so. I believe we saw a bit of contact while you were talking there, around between Boris Durney and Benjamin Schumann into the hairpin at the back end of the circuit. So drivers may be losing a bit of focus now, not focusing as much as they did at the start. Some incidents are starting to come through, so hopefully it doesn't keep our stewards too busy, and hopefully they can have a nice kind of easier second half of the race than frantically scribbling through all the lap 1 incidents. As Tom Bryant here, I believe, and Benjamin Schumann are now kind of locked in a little train. We've got Tom Bryant followed by the orange Lamborghini there in the back of Christian Romano, I believe. So Romano didn't get off to such a great start but has since, I believe, served a pit stop. He's still served a pit stop, so he is on the back of Tom Bryant, so a few places to gain out of a bad start. It just goes to prove that although you have a turn 1 incident, it's not always over. It is always worth to keep racing, especially in events that are longer than 1 hour, 2, 3, 4 hour events. Definitely worth sticking.
Romano started in the pit lane, I'm pretty sure.
Possibly, he was very out of sync. I almost thought it was a kind of turn 1 incident as Romano dives to the inside there of the blue Lamborghini in this train of Tom Bryant. Tom Bryant kind of maybe thinking better to defend of that one, letting Christian Romano go through to maybe drag himself and Christian up to the back of Benjamin Schumann, maybe playing it a little bit smart here, letting Romano have the attack on Schumann. Meanwhile, Tom Bryant sat in the back, kind of creeping along, looking to make a gain out of the fight ahead of him. On this one, Brian, Caracas at the front, really undisturbed this race. Didn't seem to be all too challenged by Harman, does he?
Well, I was going to say, he's had a very nice time of it out front on his own, not worrying about things too much, but Benjamin Harman has slowly, quietly, until now, been reeling that gap in. It was about 4.5 seconds at one stage, now only 2.2, so I wonder if maybe Benjamin Harman, the car's starting to come towards him a bit more now, and maybe able to just reel in Grantes Caracas a bit, and maybe we'll see between the two of them now if Benjamin Harman can really start to put some pressure on. We're looking at Ole Pitchik here. This is race replay. Oh, nicely avoided that.
Very close to the back of Bryant.
Yeah, almost went into the back of him, but managed to take the avoiding action. Now here is De Kaiser, who has worked his way up towards the back of Joe Macaulay. But as we've seen so far today, John Dalton, finding the back end of Joe Macaulay's Ferrari is, well, it's not a very successful endeavour getting past it, is it?
Certainly not at this part of the track, Brian, as we ride on board here with De Kaiser going down to the main straight. We're just going to see that Ferrari just disappear into the far distance, becomes smaller and smaller until it becomes a little bit of a dot before it reaches turn 1, and then we're going to see De Kaiser here spotting his braking marker on the right, slamming on the anchors, flicking it over the anti-cuts on the left, on the right, planting the throttle. Ideally you want to be flat through this kink, and we're going to see De Kaiser getting a little bit closer to Macaulay in this sector now. So we're going to have a game of cat and mouse between these two guys. We haven't really seen much of De Kaiser. He's kind of got his head down and stayed relatively trouble-free and made a lot of progression up the field. So it could be one to maybe challenge Joe Macaulay in these latter stages of the race. Thinking about these cup cars, Ryan, I'm wondering if a lot of them have set themselves up maybe for good pace at the start on a full fuel load, and obviously as the fuel burns off, the aero balance changes ever so slightly. I'm wondering if some people have maybe compensated for that in the latter stages of the race, which is why we've kind of seen people like Harman gaining on Caracas, and we've seen people like De Kaiser gaining, obviously, on Joe Macaulay.
It could definitely be the case. I do wonder with Caracas as well. We haven't mentioned it at any point during the stream today. It's 27 degrees ambient, 33 on the track. It's very hot out here today, Imola. It's a lovely summer's day, and oh, Caracas! He's made a mistake coming out of Ravazza. And that's going to cost him massively. He touched the gravel coming out of Ravazza. We're going to see on the replay here, just touches the grass as well there. Just a bit sloppy by the looks of it at the moment from Caracas. But we see coming down here into Ravazza. Takes this one nicely, but then we'll see coming through the second part of the corner here. Just goes a bit wide, and you saw the twitch on acceleration out of the corner. And that's just going to fill Benjamin Harman with more confidence as he starts to work that gap down. It's 1.1 seconds between the two of them at this stage. And neither of them are doing better lap times than they were in the earlier stage of the race. But I can tell you one thing for sure. Caracas is half a second down on his best lap of the race after the first sector. Benjamin Harman only a 10th down. Harman has got so much pace at the moment over Caracas, and the car looks so much more stable as well.
Yeah, maybe Caracas has been, you know, kind of pushing on too hard in the earlier stages of the race. Possibly used the best of those Pirelli tyres compared to Harman, who's maybe dialed it back a little bit, knows he can beat Nico Kumpu on a raw lap pace, knows that he maybe can't beat Caracas unless he really pushes the limit. And, you know, it does tend to be a tricky one, tyre management in these hot conditions, Ryan. 33 track temperature is super hot compared to what we saw last week at Hungaroring, which I believe was about 17 or 18 degrees at night. So two very different driving styles needed. Obviously you can go super aggressive kind of in the night, not generate as much kind of heat in the tyre, cool down a lot quicker, whereas here tyres tend to, you know, retain heat a lot more. So any slides, understeers, you know, brake locks, overdriving the tyre is going to be detrimental to your race outcome. So Caracas possibly watching his mirror, seeing the pink Porsche getting that air a little bit nearer, and Heilmann obviously chasing the back of the yellow Porsche, thinking that it's going to be in his sights soon. So it's going to be certainly one to watch, as De Keyser here has dropped down to P14. I believe he's taken his mandatory pit stop, possibly to get himself away from the back end of that Ferrari as he starts to begin his chase on Klaus Nyring, who was very close to him, I believe, before the kind of initial break of the Joe McCauley train started at the beginning of the race.
Yeah, and I do wonder where this puts Joe McCauley once the pit stops do cycle out. I kind of get the feeling that Adam Dubiel, at the very least, is going to be ahead of him, and Klaus Nyring looks like he could be ahead of him as well by the time Joe McCauley comes down pit road. So I wonder if that window for Joe McCauley to stay ahead has shrunk and maybe disappeared. We have an update from the stewards, by the way. Lap 18 turns 13 and 14 involving the 222 and the 999 is a racing incident. And then the big one that we did see, lap 19 turn 18, this is down towards Ravatza, involving Jaroslav Roth in the 288 and the 137 of Nicholas Nordquist. The stewards have decided racing incident, both cars at fault. The 137 goes for a small gap in a tricky part of the circuit. The 288 turns across them slightly, and it's been judged by the stewards that both drivers could have probably done better in that situation, given all the telemetry and the views that they've had to have a look over that one. We've also got the report from lap 18 turn 12 involving the 5 and the 999. Warning for the 5 as they force the 999 wide and off the circuit, and I believe we're going to get a little bit of a replay of that one here. So going just a little bit of a bump there, and that's going to be a warning for Bart Matcher. I don't believe there was a loss of position there, so probably why there was no penalty. But well, racing incident for that one, John, and let's have a look here. So we're back looking at Benjamin Heilmann, and he is 1.1 seconds still off the back of Grantis Caracas. And right now, the bleeding has stopped temporarily for Caracas, but well, with 14 minutes to go and a mandatory pit stop for both of these drivers to serve, you don't know when it might start again.
Yeah, certainly so, Ryan. I say 1 second between you and your rival isn't the biggest gap, especially with the pit stops coming up. You know, there's time to be made up in pit lane. Can you be later than him on pit limiter? Can you get your car stopped better than he can on the jacks, rather than overshooting or undershooting and having to move the car again? So there's certainly ground for these guys still to make a mistake. There's certainly grounds for these guys to still switch positions. So I think it's going to be the first of whoever blinks. I think either Caracas or Heilmann. Whoever does will be the one, as we see a pop-up here from the 340. Straight up disqualified for speeding in the pit lane. So I don't think I've ever seen that one before.
I have. I do know if you go a certain threshold above the pit lane speed limit, it will auto disqualify you. We did have that in a race not too long ago. The standard procedure at this point for the stewards, if that happens, is to undisqualify the car and then hand the car a stop and go 30 penalty. That is the procedure that the stewards have, so that's what's happened with Dvorak. He's had the disqualification removed so he can rejoin the race, but he has that stop and go 30 now applied. that he will have to serve. So for Dvorak, not great, but at least he does get the opportunity to continue onwards and try and score some points here towards the end of the race. But I have to say, you have to be going at a fair old speed on pit entry to get a straight up disqualification. So I wonder if Dvorak maybe just, like you said, John, the pit entry is a lot sooner than you think it is, maybe just completely misjudging it.
Yeah, potentially so. I mean, the pit entry here at Imola isn't too clear. I mean, there is a bollard on the left. If the bollard is no longer on the left, the line is super hard to kind of spot. So maybe somebody's clipped the bollard. I'd like to give Dvorak the benefit of the doubt. You know, being a very experienced driver, we've seen him race in RCI quite a bit. I'd like to think he would know where the pit entry line is at Imola. But again, if that bollard's gone, that's your only reference point that you've been looking for this whole time. Then yeah, it's very easy to overshoot. I've done it many a time at various other circuits where you've only got either a cone or a bollard, somebody's hit it and it's gone, and you come steaming into the pit lane at the end of your stint thinking this has been great, I'm going to give the car over, we're going to gain some positions out of this, and then all of a sudden you leave the pit lane and stewards have spotted you and you've got to stop and go. Speaking of stewards and penalties, we see a 15-second penalty come through for Benjamin Schumann. I believe that might be for the incident that we saw at the hairpin at the back of the circuit. I believe when he tangled with possibly Maurice Durney off the top of my head.
It is correct.
Indeed. So yeah, it's race replay. I think we're probably going to see that one here, as we need to be watching the yellow car, I believe, of Schumann at the back. Absolutely fires it up the inside of Maurice Durney there. Maybe completely misjudging where the braking point was there. He was nowhere near enough to even have a move there, I don't believe. As we watch here, Hagström Vigersjö, our favourite Swede in this league for purely his name and how hard it has been to learn over 2 seasons. In P20 in his fine. Lamborghini.
Our resident Swedish staff member Mikael Sundström drilled it into our heads, and you know, I had the audacity from one of the Nordquist brothers to then message me after the live stream and tell me, oh yes, by the way, Vigersjö's name is pronounced Wiggle Wiggle, and my immediate response was, no it's not, shut up. I'm not being deceived again by a driver. But no, Hagström Vigersjö, he was really, really good in the Nissan in the Asia Master Series, but he struggled with the Lamborghini, it would seem, here in the Challenge Cup. But I have no doubt that whatever we continue onward with for the next Monday Championship, he'll be right back up there as well. And we'll look forward to seeing him again around in the Monday Championships, as well as Jake Boswell, who's enjoying himself out here in the Monday Championship as well. And he's battling with Will Stevenson, one of the fellow RCI stewards here. Oh, we're getting a bit physical between RCI stewards. So Will Stevenson and Jake Boswell going a bit beyond just wheel-to-wheel racing by the looks of it, and the stewards will have to have a little bit of a look at that. And it's not rare that we have to typically look at our own stewards getting involved in incidents, because we typically try to lead by example and not get involved in incidents, but sometimes do like to get a bit personal with each other, and maybe a bit of personal pride on the line between staff members as well.
You could potentially class that as maybe friendly fire, a little bit of steward on steward action there, say not harming anyone but themselves. So, you know, their limits, it was a little bit more than elbows out racing. That was more kind of like arms out racing, giving each other a little bit of a shove into Aqua Minerale, but all harmless fun. No positions gained, no positions lost, so they are just literally having a little bit of fun out here on Mondays. Not often RCI staff do get to race, but it is great to see them actually competing against each other on this one. As we flick back to Adam de Biel here in P11, he is technically first on the road of those that have served their pit stops. Top 10 is still yet to serve. That's why you're seeing a few names up there that you may not be familiar with in the top 10 region, as he does look to the back of the 64 Porsche Lamborghini with some very good pace all round at Imola. So I can't imagine Adam de Biel is going to make this one too hard, possibly sizing himself up for a move down the start finish straight into turn 1. Very popular place for the Lamborghini to gain a little bit on the Porsche. Sizes up into the outer chicane, thinks better of it, maybe not close enough, jumps over those 2 giant yellow curbs Careful not to take too much to upset the car. Very easily done in a mid-engine or rear-engine car. Heading down into Ravazza of 16, 17 and 18. Very easy corner to get wrong, I was about to say there, Ryan, and proves it just so with the 64 Porsche there, outbraking himself down the hill, possibly watching his mirrors too much for Adam Deville, and the 64 does pull into the pit lane. So Adam Deville here in some lovely clean air. He's going to want to make the most of it to try and gain as much as he can on the back of the front runners of Joe McCauley, Nika Kumpu, Heilman and Caracas.
So Adam Dubiel then up into the top 10, looking at Hagstrom Vigaskew closing down on Bart Matcher at the moment. Connection Lost Racing against nearly on pace by the looks of it to come down to here, and unfortunately we have no Mikhail Sundström. We did mention him earlier, by the way. He's I think he's decided to take a break from the ACC Championships for a bit, and we'll look forward to seeing him back here. But here is Hagstrom Vigaskew, the Swede, in his place, and look at the speed of the Lamborghini coming up behind Bart Matcher. But then we get to the braking zone and the Porsche can just brake a little bit later than the Lamborghini can, but this will put Vigaskew right on the back of the number 5. And you have to think, if he's going to be this close coming out of the chicane and into the second chicane, Hagstrom Vigaskew going to have a look. Not quite able to get the move done, but he did have a fair old look. And is he going to have a go into Toaster as well? He is. He's going to be on the inside line. He's going to run right up to Bart Matcher and try and put as much stress on the car ahead as he can. Now he gets a good run right up the back, bump drafting pretty much the back of Bart Matcher, but has to concede as we start to get to the more downforce focus section of the circuit. But he'll want to be around this close, John, if he can, coming out of Ravazza, to make sure that he's ahead of Bart Matcher by the time we get to the first chicane. So 5 minutes to go here. Just about 4 minutes left of the pit window, and I can confirm that Joe McCauley, he's into the pit lane, and he's unfortunately lost out not just to Adam Dubiel, not just to Klaus Nyring, not just to De Kaiser. Oh no, he isn't going to lose out to, I thought he was going to lose out to the likes of Will Stevenson, but he will actually come out ahead of the likes of Will Stevenson. So unfortunately for Joe McCauley, 3 places lost across the pit stops.
Yeah, although the Ferrari has great pace in a straight line, maybe not so great in the corners, and obviously not physically seeing the reference of other cars around the Ferrari made it a little bit hard to judge on whether Joe was gaining or losing. But still, 3 positions isn't as bad as it could be. So it's still... eagle-eyed viewer Ryan Mawson has just noticed that Joe McCauley hasn't actually served his pit stop. He still has 1 stop outstanding. So maybe missing the fact that he had to add that litre of fuel. Possibly took tyres instead, thinking it was a tyre stop. But yeah, Joe still has to come into the pit lane. So very bad news for Joe McCauley. Such a shame, with such good pace at the start of the race and in qualifying. Really wanted to see the Ferrari in the top 5, but maybe cursing the commentator here, Ryan. We were talking about that Joe McCauley could be on the step of a podium, and I think we may have cursed him.
It's such a shame, and what might have also happened as well, you sometimes get it with ACC, if you don't nail your pit box, the pit crew will pick up the car to move it into its correct position, and then of course when they do that, they immediately drop the car before picking it back up. The problem is, the moment where they drop the car, you can technically drive away if your engine's still on, and that is a mistake that we have seen drivers do on a couple of occasions where they just haven't got their pit box right on the entry, and then they've driven away before the stop has actually been served. So that could be what happened to Joe McCauley. But yeah, absolutely heartbreaking for him, and it looks like, well, not just the chance of a podium is gone now, but even the chance of a top 10 looks very, very slim now.
Definitely so. Very easy to do, like you say, Ryan. Car gets dropped down, you start the engine and think you're clear, but in fact that you do just have to literally get kind of up on your jacks again and get that 1 litre of fuel in. As we see there, Hagstrom Vigaskew and Bart Matcher coming together in the first corner of Tamburello into that first chicane there. Bart Matcher missing a lot of ground and positions out there. I believe that's Christian Romano there going through, and possibly even, is that Caracas possibly on the back end here? It's definitely not Benjamin Schumann, as Caracas there takes a lap off Bart Matcher, not wanting to lose any time at all. Certainly wants to get a move on to Heilmann there, has pulled up the gap a little bit. We were speaking earlier, Ryan, of the gap being around 1.2 seconds. Caracas has now pulled it out to 2.4, so certainly wanted to get the hammer down before the pit stop, not wanting to lose out at all. And the pit window does close in 25 seconds, so these guys are cutting it very, very fine indeed. Going to have to see Caracas and Heilmann in this lap, so
they're not going to make it. They're not going to make it, John. There's way more than 12 seconds. Caracas and Heilmann, whether they've just been too focused on the task at hand, they have not made the pit window. So both of them are going to get a post-race penalty. Nico Kumpu's going to win this race.
Yeah, certainly not what you want to be doing. I say we've seen Joe McCauley with his pit stop mistake, and now we've seen Caracas and Heilmann with their pit stop mistake too. Possibly, like I say, it was the typical blink first.
And Caracas
neither of them wanting to blink.
Caracas has gone into the pit lane thinking he can still serve it, but he can't. Heilmann's continued on. He's realised that they can't pit, they can't serve it now. Caracas is pitting, but it won't mean anything. He can't serve the pit stop, or the mandatory pit stop rather. It won't count, so he's just going to lose positions here. The best thing he could have done at this point is doing exactly what Benjamin Heilmann has done, which is keep going and just take whatever penalty that it will hand out towards the end. But Nico Kumpu now, who has sat in third place for this entire race, is now going to end up on the top step of the podium. This is like Martin Lawrence all over again last week at Hungaroring.
Certainly not something we thought that we would see. I say Monday Cup Challenge constantly bringing the curveballs in, like you say, with Lawrence last week. Didn't even expect him to win. That came out of absolutely nowhere, and I think this has come out of nowhere as well for Nico Kumpu as he starts the final lap there with about 8 seconds to go on the timer. So Nico Kumpu's going to be shuffling up the grid. However, I believe Adam DeBille isn't too far behind Nico Kumpu, and if Adam DeBille has spotted what has happened to Caracas and Heilmann, then DeBille might even want to be trying to get past Kumpu here on this last lap.
Yeah, I'm just looking through at the moment. I'm trying to figure out exactly what will happen with Benjamin Heilmann. Benjamin Heilmann, by the way, he's coming around the final corner now. He's going to cross the line as the effective leader, but he's not going to win the race. The championship leader will cross the line on the road in the lead, but it will not count for a race win. 130-second penalty. As he crosses the line, Caracas and McCauley will receive the same. So that puts Benjamin Heilmann 2 minutes and 10 seconds. It puts him a lap down at the very least. So Benjamin Heilmann and Grantas Caracas have absolutely thrown away. Well, I mean, Caracas has thrown away a win. Benjamin Heilmann has thrown away a win as well. Because if he'd pitted when Caracas hadn't, he would be the one inheriting a win here today. Instead, coming through the final corner and out of Ravazza to Nico Kumpu in the 2.56, he's going to inherit the win. We're going to have 4 different winners in 4 races, and it's Lamborghini on top. Their home venue, Dubiel will finish in second. And it will be Klaus Nyring to cross the line in third place come the official results.
We did say, Ryan, that Joe McCauley might have ended up on the podium, and obviously if he got his valid pit stop in and got back ahead of, Nyring and DeVille, he could have been on that bottom step. So we might have been right in the what ifs scenario. But 130 seconds of penalty to P1 and 2 is a lot of time to lose. It must be absolutely soul destroying to push yourself for an hour in a car that is not the easiest to drive to end up being pushed down the grid. But Nico Kumpu, like you say, 4 different winners in 4 different events. This is really shaping up to be a great championship, Brian.
It definitely is. And Benjamin Harmon, Grantis Caracas, and Joe McCauley, 17th, 18th, and 19th is what the official results will put them at. So not where they wanted to be, but here it is, the official results confirmed. Kumpu wins from Dubiel, Nyring, Kaiser, and Boardman in the top 5. Jake Boswell will beat out Will Stevenson for a 6th place finish. Jazabowski, Ostrich in 8th and 9th. And Ollie Pitchik did get a top 10 finish in the end. And absolutely incredible. The Nyring being the highest placed Porsche, that will please him here today. And, well, Nico Kumpu inheriting a win out of nowhere. He will be absolutely ecstatic, but this throws a real wrench into the championship standings because, of course, Benjamin Harmon, up until this point, had only finished on the podium in every race, and now very much not on the podium. He'll be glad that there is a drop round, and for Benjamin Harmon's sake, he'll be hoping that this is his drop round and that he won't have a worse performance than this for the rest of the season.
Yeah, let's hope so. Benjamin Harmon, like you say, has always been kind of up the top end of the field. So taking this as a drop round, it's going to be interesting to see how this comes in towards the championships standings next week, which we will take a look at. Obviously, post stewards reports as well on that one. Make sure nobody else gets any penalties. But Nico Kumpu's superb drive tonight just kind of kept himself out of trouble. Didn't really try and get himself involved in too many fights, and he's come out on top here, Ryan.
Definitely has come out on top here, and well, a very entertaining race and a crazy end to the race comes out here at Imola. The fireworks going off, and well, we have to look forward to what will happen next week at the Nürburgring for round 5. Who knows what could happen? Will we have 5 different winners in 5 races? Well, only time will tell. But if you're interested in more racing around RCI TV this week, we have the season finale to the Diamond Drive Cup. I believe they're going to be out at Spa for 2 30-minute races, I believe it is. For them. So the Diamond Drive Cup will conclude on Wednesday evening. Then on Thursday, the M2 Cup returns. They're also going to be out at Spa, the biggest race or the biggest circuit on the calendar for the M2 Cup. It's been absolutely crazy. We had a wet Bathurst last week, and we'll look forward to see what Spa throws our way as well. The Friday Championship is still on break as they're going through pre-qualifying for the next championship. And Night Owl is back as well this Saturday, and it's also in Belgium, but it's not at Spa. Instead, they'll be heading out to Zolder for their 5th round of the season, and of course we'll return for round 5 of the Challenge Cup at the Nürburgring. And well, it'll be interesting to see exactly what happens out there. Some of the highlights of the race just on here for you now, but we'd like to give a big thank you to Race Department, AK Informatica, Driver 61, Fanatec, and Sim Racing GP. Race Department, obviously, all the up-to-date sim racing news, you can catch it there, and some fantastic Assetto Corsa mods as well. AK Informatica, all of our races are run on their servers, and they provide a fantastic platform for us, so thank you very much to them, and you can check them out as well. Get yourself some servers or maybe some computer equipment as well through their store. Then there's also Driver 61 if you want to, well, I would say dominate like Grantis Caracas has out here today, but you probably do want to pick up some pit stop strategies from somewhere. But Driver 61 can help you with that as well. They have some excellent coaches over there that can make you a sim racing master. Access to the Sim Racing Academy, it only costs $10, and you can get 25% off with the discount code in the description below. Fanatec, you know enough about them already. You can get some amazing deals on their hardware on the high end and the low end now with the new CSL DD. And you can use our affiliate link to support RCI with no additional cost. And Sim Racing GP, if you're ever interested in checking out some races on Assetto Corsa race room, or maybe iRacing in the future from various communities, you can check out Sim Racing GP and get started today. So big thank you to the stewards behind the scenes, Ryan Mawson, our broadcaster, who does a fantastic job as per usual on a Monday, and John Dalton for joining me in the commentary box. We will be back next week for round 5 at the Nürburgring. Who knows what will happen in the next round of the Challenge Cup?